Okay. Welcome, Osweo, and Happy New Year. We are back, Argos, Nathalie, and I, here to just connect and talk about, New Year's and intentions versus resolutions and how we include our mindfulness practice in that. And so, we know that mindfulness can help us approach both our intentions and sometimes people set resolutions and mindfulness helps us within the present moment and kind of keeps us centered in that way. So rather than focusing solely on the future, our mindfulness practice encourages us to understand the present moment and our current needs and making intentions more aligned with our authentic selves. So just tipping it off. Nathalie and Argos, why do New Year's resolutions often fail? People talk about it all the time, right? Resolutions versus intentions, and how can our mindfulness practice help us stay present with our goals? So the what are you all thinking about that?
Natalie, do you want to go first or should I?
No, no, go, please. Please, please,
Okay.
please.
Sure. Um, well, I know for myself, I'm a little bit of a rebel. So anytime I set goals, I'm already like, I don't want to do that. Like I'm
Right.
kind of like already fighting against it. And I think part of it was because growing up, I think I would set goals that weren't really true to me. They were just kind of things
Mm,
that I was doing because I had to do. And so there was always a part of me like, oh, I don't really want to do that. And so that kind of connects to resolutions sometimes, even though resolutions are meant to come from like what I want. Usually, the resolutions that I used to set in the past were connected to expectations that other people had of me, or expectations that I had
mm,
of myself that weren't really connected to my values, but what I thought other people wanted me to see me do. And so my shift, and I think mindfulness supported me with it, was just getting really clear about what's valuable to me, what's important to me, what makes sense to me in this moment, right? With a lot of kindness and curiosity and compassion, and then moving towards that. So to me, intentions are more connected to my values and how I want to approach doing something, which is different than resolutions and goals. And sometimes it feels like it's just
mm,
semantics in my head, but it makes a real difference to me because if I can have an emotional connection, a feeling tone to what it is that I want to accomplish, I feel a lot more motivated rather than like doing something because it's the thing I'm supposed to do because it's what's expected of me. And so that's the difference be to me between resolutions and intentions and why I tend to gravitate to intentions because they tend to be a little bit more open and a little bit more flexible
yeah.
and a little bit more connected to what's really important to me.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah. I
So
appreciate just what you mentioned around that too. And then with the mindfulness, it kind of combats that all or nothing mindset, that often leads to those failures, right? And not necessarily failures, but like we just drop the ball a bit because it's like, I can do it, but I can't. But by staying present with the process rather than focusing solely on the outcome, we can maintain that sense of motivation and embrace our imperfections and really adjust to our intentions or goals as we need them without all that self-criticism behind it. Natalie, what were you going to say?
Mm. Well, it's funny because first, I'm not sure I'm a rebel, but for me, like resolutions and goals, I'm so far away of that now. And I think it's because of
Mm,
all this yoga and meditation and mindfulness. And the when you have decided to live in the moment and to really cherish the moment, it seems to be so abstract. But when you said about goals, and it reminded me that when I was younger, I had goals because that was
mm.
also the way to grow in life, I guess. But the goals, and I gave up that even before my practice in mindfulness, because what I noticed is my goals. I had expectations. I wanted to reach this, and when I reached that, I was like, "Really? That's it? That's what I've been working so much for that? No way." So I understood that the goals that I had, which were also goals that society made me have, were like between what I expected and when I reached the expected thing was like, really?
Yeah.
Well, eh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since that, goals are like, yeah, well, I need goals to move up for short things, but not goals in life. Because for me, life, you have to stay open, and it's when you stay open that things arrive, and that's what I'm looking for. So
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I hear both of you say is, yeah, the goals are more centered around what others, maybe other people's expectations are. And also, our mindfulness practice helps us stay like grounded and supported and with the intention of being flexible and giving ourselves grace and being open to change and things will, kind of move and flow, whereas resolutions are a little bit more rigid, right? And our intentions help us focus on the process and the mindset. So it really is supportive in that way. And so, just curious, how do you both create an actionable plan for your intentions without feeling overwhelmed in the process? And maybe your mindfulness practice supports you in that planning process. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I think I have this connotation of goals kind of being negative, but they could actually be really supportive, right? If you use them with intentionality, right? If they're connected to your values, I think they could be really helpful. And so, for example, I had like for the New Year's, I thought, well, I want a lot of abundance in my life, right? Which is kind of like
Mhm.
vague and abstract, but I like it that way because abundance can mean a lot of different things, both from material things, friendships, food, love, right? And so if I choose one of those things and I say, okay, well, I want to manifest more love in my life this year, then what are the goals that I can set for that? And so then I start thinking about like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm gonna dedicate time to call some of my friends who I kind of lost touch over the year because things get so busy. And so once a week, I'm gonna choose a friend to just connect with, either a phone call, a text, or I'm gonna make sure to go out with them or hang out with them or something like that. And so I could take this big idea of abundance in my life and then kind of just make it smaller and make it about having more abundant relationships that are loving in my life. And then I can make a plan around, okay, how do I do that? It could be as simple as a phone call, or it could be as simple as me reaching out and doing a couple of things. But it makes my plan a little bit smaller and a little bit more focused and again connected to my values and to the things that are important to me. Um, but I don't know if that's like the SMART goals, that are measurable and time, all
Yeah.
that. Like I have a hard time with those kind of things, and I know that they're helpful for a lot of people, but for me, they kind of put me in a box, and I have a hard time with it. So
Mhm.
I have to connect it with something broader and larger, and then I
Yeah.
could kind of make it smaller and more accessible for myself, so that it's something that's actually actionable for me. But with all that said, I have a beautiful wife who's really good at goal setting, who will come up with plans and like the 10 steps to it. And so I find that supportive when I'm doing that with somebody, right? When I'm
Mhm.
kind of being held accountable with somebody. But when I'm leading it for myself, it doesn't work as well. And I rather just connect to like this big intention. And so I think both can be helpful, but personally, I like having a more flexible kind of intention than a resolution, and then having like
Mhm.
smaller plans for that than like having a big 100-step plan for the year or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. It's funny because for me, it's all about trust, and it's about the trust that I have in myself, and
Mhm.
how when my intention is really grounded in my heart, for me, I'm sure that it's going to come back at certain times to wake me up again if I lose it.
Mm,
Mhm.
So it's really a question of, oh, this is really a true thing that is alive for me. And that's
Mhm.
why intentions at the beginning of the year are not always for me at the beginning of the year. For me, it's just like, okay, it's how I'm going to grow next step. And I'm like, okay, that I reached that, and now I want to grow this way, and then I trust myself that this is something that is going to come, and and be nurtured by me, but also by others. Because if I have this intention, this energy that I develop in me, I'm sure that it's going to grow from me and from others that I that feed me or that I feed. I don't know if it
Yeah.
makes sense, but yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
No,
I love that
that's
word
sweet.
trust. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
trusting your intentions, your like what is
Yeah.
alive for you in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I have a lot of appreciation around that too. And just, knowing that our practice helps us stay focused to just even one thing at a time and kind of reducing that feeling of overwhelm behind what we set out for ourselves. And then being mindful of the thoughts and emotions that come up when we create our intentions or goals and really breaking them down into small, manageable steps. And that's what I heard you say, Argos, right? Like breaking it down just piece by piece and what feels supportive for you, and then just remaining present in the moment rather than stressing out on this whole big picture and how we're going to line it up and things. And I know for me, every year I always pick one or two words for to set the tone for my year. My two words are abundance and transformation. And Argus, I heard you mention yours, one of yours being abundance too. And so I guess the next thing is about, holding ourselves accountable to our intentions throughout the year without that feeling of shame or guilt. And I know that for me, uh, mindfulness encourages this self-compassion piece, right? This love for myself and giving myself grace and flexibility, which is really, I think, a vital piece of staying kind and patient with yourself. So if I slip, if I fall behind on whatever intentions I set, I know that my practice helps me stay present and become aware of those feelings of um, being, having those feelings without any judgment and allowing me to approach any setbacks as learning opportunities and not failures because it's day by day, right? And it's moment to moment. And so that's super supportive. So I'm wondering, do you all have any additional words or intentions that you would apply to the year? And then also, does community support impact? I know, Argos, you mentioned your wife. That is your support, right? When it comes to achieving your intentions and how you may like really be grounded in that. But do you have anything as far as Osweo is concerned and how they can lean into their community as they set their intentions for the year?
Hmm.
Yeah. That's a great question. I think a lot of my values are grounded in the relationships that I have with the people
Mm,
that I work with, or the people that I live with, the people that I'm trying to move something towards.
mhm,
And so us working together, right? My intention is for us to feel seen, supported, be able to offer the kind of support that we think Osweo might need based on the feedback that they're getting. So I think for me with Osweo, a lot of it is just like those survey responses, right? And the kind of feedback that we get, making sure that those are in alignment with our values as us three, as a collective, but also as a district and as educators, as folks who take care of other people's children. How do we align to the values that are connected to what's really important to all of us collectively? And I think that holds us accountable. And it might mean that we don't always agree, right? But then there's a dialogue, and then there's the trust, like you were saying, and then there's the compassion and the curiosity around it, right? So it prevents me from being rigid or being stuck on
mhm.
like, well, this is the goal I set January 1st, so I need to
Right.
do that. No,
Right.
like actually maybe that serves me only until March, and then I need to
Yeah.
switch up my intention on my goals because of the feedback that I'm getting or because what I'm seeing on the ground, and I need to adjust. And I think that's what mindfulness allows me to do, to be aware and clear of that, but also be compassionate when things don't go my way and also be understanding of others. And so all of that is kind of like a dance that we have to go
Mhm.
through. And that's why goals and resolutions sometimes feel a little rigid to me and like confining. And maybe they're not always that way, but that's why I tend to lean towards intentions because then it's like, okay, there's a built-in flexibility in that that's connected to what I'm seeing in the moment with hopefully lots of love and compassion.
Yeah.
Mm.
My wish for Oswayo is that with our conversations, with all what we share, that we allow you to be very authentic with yourself in the context of the school.
Mm.
That's my so I hope that's what we cultivate with you. And it's funny because speaking of intentions, for me, my intentions, uh, it's trust, but it's also a secret between me and me. So that's how for me that's how it works. For Argos, you share with your wife. It's everybody has his own dance. So my invitation is to find your own dance. But all we want is for you to be really authentic with yourself and let that open.
Yeah. Yeah. That's sweet. And just ending it here, right? So we know that our mindfulness can help us really tune in. Thank you, Natalie, for mentioning like ourselves, our inner voice, which often holds the key to our deeper purpose. And through practices like our mindfulness and self-reflection and compassion and gratitude and all the other things that we're going to cultivate throughout the year, it really allows us to have access to clarity and to set our intentions and that are aligned with our true desires and the sense of purpose. So, what we're wishing for all of you, Osweo, is to set intentions, to be well, and until next time, we'll check in on your 2025 intentions. Later,
And
y'all.
Fantasia, thank you for the words because now I have two words for this year.
Okay, we said later, but what are your words, Nathalie? What are your words?
It's my secret, baby.
Maybe she'll share when we see all of you in person.
All
All
right.
right, y'all. Until next time. Later.
Bye
Later.
bye. Always good to be with you.